Hi, today I thought I would take a moment to show you how easy it is to create a little tabletop piece like this using 3 simple picks and our sweet little black lantern. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so with our lantern, what we're going to use today is just make a really simple little display. So I'm going to use a piece of florist foam that we have that's 12 centimeters in diameter. This lantern has a little door here and it just fits. All right. In fact, I'll leave the door open. All right, so what I do at home is I keep all my offcuts when I cut anything up to do my decorating. I keep all the pieces in a couple of jars so I can reuse them over and over again. So the first one I'm going to do is very soft and simple with the flocked cedar spray, a little bit of eucalyptus, and then our sweet little glittery mistletoe pick. So what I like to do first is just fill out the base of the piece. Some of these are going to be a bit big, so I'll just cut them down. Stuck together. Some of the times you don't have a very long stem that you're working with here, so you just got to do your best to push it into the foam. And I'm going to come out a fair way here, and we'll see how it all comes together. And start with just lowering. I've got those pieces coming down, right down. In fact, I don't think I need this. I'm going to take that off. So that they come down right down to the tabletop. And I'm just going to go around and fill all of those pieces. Okay, so you can see that the foliage comes down to the ground on that, and I've sort of tried to fill up all the foam so you can't see the foam. And then what I'm going to do is just fill it out a little bit with some of the eucalyptus spray that I have. With these, I will often pull them right down to smaller size pieces so they can either be cut off or pulled off. I want to get that in there, and then I'm going to add a little bit more of the flocking, and then we'll just add our sparkly pick at the end. So again, when you've got, you can sort of try and get your hand in here or just through the bars, see whatever's easier. In fact, and definitely want to try and work from the middle out, because it is a bit tricky getting into the middle of something small like this. You can use, depending on how full you want the inside to be, you could keep a branch of this. So let's just see how it looks with this piece. Doesn't look too tall. And let's fill that up. So in placing these eucalyptus in here, I'm also spraying it out. You want it to join in with your foliage at the bottom, and then, as I said, we're going to use some of that foliage up here as well. So you don't want it to look like it's 2 separate layers. And I've got a couple of different foliages. There's no reason you can't use whatever you've got left. And spraying it out, as I say, so that you've got fullness all the way around. Now, then I want to come back in with my flocked pick to get a little bit of the flocking through the rest of this piece. So the flocking has got very short stems when you're cutting it like this, so it's a little bit trickier, and sometimes it's not actually going to be pushed into the foam. It really will be sitting amongst the greenery that you've got in there, and that will be almost what holds it in place. So as an example here, oops, just want to push that in to And now you've got a little bit more of that greenery, the flocking coming up at a slightly higher level. As I say, it's a bit tricky, just gently push it through, and a little bit at the middle. If you have no stem at all at the bottom, like a piece like this, I would suggest you actually cut a little bit of the foliage off to help create something that that stem can stick into. That one will do. Okay, so that's where we sit at the moment. We're just getting that softness of the colour coming through. And now all I'm going to do is come in with our little mistletoe berry pick, cut that down. I've just bought myself a really good pair of cutters from Bunnings, which I use all the time. Sometimes with these picks you can separate them into even smaller pieces, and to get some of this, sometimes they'll pull apart and other times not. This isn't going to pull apart. Might be able to get it. Just cutting the wrap around it to see if it'll help me pull this out. All I'm trying to do here is get myself a couple of stems so that it's easier to put it in to the piece, and if I can just get that little bit of length, that will make it a lot easier, and then cut them off. And then just going to have them coming out. Some of this is just going to sit again amongst the foliage, so it's not necessarily going to be stuck into the foam. You've got enough foliage in there now that it'll all sit where you want it to. I'm actually going to keep 2 of these on the stem, and I'm going to put that stem right down the middle. That will help give me that little bit of height I need for the middle, so sort of work out how long I need that to be. And feed that through. Let's see if it's not too long. No, it is a bit long. Let's do that again. It's always better to cut short to begin with, and then you can always cut again. Just get my fingers in here and push that into place right in the middle, and then I'll get the that's looking really pretty. Okay, and then just add a couple more, and as I said, these are really just sitting on the foliage, these berries, so I'm not really attaching them in there because they're a little bit shorter. I've also used all your stems that you've got, so this has got nice glitter on it, which is always great to add to the pieces. So I'm going to use each of those that I've got, just put them in there, a little bit of green. It's just a little bit more berry at the front. There you go. So sometimes you can, even it's the same variety that I couldn't pull apart last time, this time I could, which is great because I've got a slightly longer stem. And that means when I put this in, I can actually have it stuck in and standing up a bit. See how now that means I could get that piece up, attached to everything. It's a bit of a mess when you do this, but you're going to cut all that messy bit off. And since I've got it, I might as well use these last pieces. So let me just see. I haven't got any berries down the front here, so because this is the front of my piece, I'm actually going to feed this longer stem right through the foliage and try and get into the foam just to get a bit of berry down lower. Yeah, that's better. Again, that sort of stops it from being all layered, you know, flocked, then green, then white, sort of mixing the sort of decorative element throughout the 3 layers that you created. And I think that's enough, actually. All right, and then if you did want to go a little bit further, let me just get rid of this. If you wanted to add a little bow, you could do that. I always find it easier with a bow to actually make the bow and then attach it rather than trying to attach it onto the piece. I think it just sits better. So if you want a really simple bow, you just fold, make a loop, pinch the pieces together, and then you want to twist your ribbon so that the pattern is always on the outside. And make a bow, a loop, twist it. And then we'll just see how they both look. And then I use bind wire for everything. We've got that on the website, but it's just an alternative to florist wire, or it is a form of florist wire actually, but it's called bind wire, and I just find it really easy to work with. So if you wanted a very simple bow, and then with the ends here, you just fold them in half and cut up on an angle, and that gives you the nice end to your bow. And let's see where we want to put this. So you could just have it sitting up like that, I think. And so we've got the wire, we can just simply attach it around the middle. And there you have it. So a simple lantern that we have, we've filled with foliage using 3 simple foliages. We've got the cedar spray, some eucalyptus, and then just a glittery berry pick on top of that. We've added the bow. You can leave the bow off or add it if you wanted to. You could also add some lights through the middle before you actually decorate. Just wind some lights through there so you can turn them on and add the glitter of the lights coming through, which would also look great. Okay, for the second option, I thought I would just create a really simple berry display in our lantern here. So I've got our red berry, and all I'm going to do to start with is just break this down. I want it quite tight, so I'm going to probably break each of these into 2 pieces. I might leave some of them longer, and then we'll see how we go from there. In case I don't have quite enough foliage, I do have the picks that I used in the first version of this, so I might need to add some of that, but let's start with the two of the berry picks and see how far we get. So I'm going to actually break each of these branches down so that I've got 2 stems. One's going to be slightly longer with this, and let's just see how the length is in here. and I'm going to push it right into the foam because, as I said, I want this a bit tighter than the first version that we did. It's going to be a lot easier with this one to work from the middle out because it's a tighter fit. So all I'm going to do is break it down. Whenever I do these and break them down into smaller pieces, I will keep 2 piles of them so I can easily mix the 2 varieties, so I don't end up using all the berries, for example, on the inside and having nothing for the outside of the piece, and then I can mix them through. So I'm now just alternating, adding one of the berry pick and then one of the plain foliage, and starting in the middle and sort of working my way through. And just, actually it's easier to get them in, I think, in the middle. Berries being a bit longer, I'm just going to push them in, get a few of them in that way. And then this one, just to fill up in between. Bit fiddly, but it's not difficult. And once you've got just those few pieces in the middle, then you can start spraying the pieces out more on an angle so they're coming out of the piece. Sometimes you sort of see there's a bit of a gap. That needs a berry at the front. This is just super sweet and very, very easy, as you can see. Got 2 picks, 1 lantern, 1 piece of foam. You'd have this done in 15 minutes. I'm going to just close to make it, don't need to get in there. And as I said, just continue alternating around. Oops, that's 2 berries. And as you get lower, then you want your foliage to come down, out as well as down a bit to fill the base so you don't see the forest foam. Seeing what my gaps look like here, then I'll turn it around to you. And the 2 berries is all we need. 2 berry picks is just fine to get this job done. And at this stage what I'm doing is making sure you've got sprays coming out on the sides, both sides, as well as the front as well. And just have another look. Always look at the pieces to see if there's anything that's looking a bit odd or needs filler. So for example, down here, I feel like there's a bit of a gap. So I'm just going to put a small piece of foliage in to fill that. And then I'd like to have a little bit of berry coming up a bit more here. Got some foliage, so we'll put it in there and try and do the same on both sides. When you start to put 1 extra piece of foliage on one side, put it in the other side as well. It'll help make it easier to keep it uniform. More of a gap around the frame here, so just filling that in so that you can't see that foam. And one last berry, which I think could go down into that same area. that's it. I didn't need any of the other foliage. The 2 berry picks were quite sufficient. I think that is really gorgeous, very simple to make, but so much easier with a piece like this. Just so you know, this lantern, I had a 7 centimeter wide candle, actually it might have been 10, and it didn't fit, so it is quite a narrow opening at the back here, so you'd almost need, if you wanted to do it with a candle, only use LED candles, don't use real ones, because if you're doing foliage as well, but you would want a very small candle, like a thin sort of tea light sort of size, maybe slimmer like that, to go in there. But I also think without any candle, I love them just as a holder of foliage. So that's it. The products are on the website mychristmas.com.au. We do ship internationally, smaller pieces like the picks. Larger pieces though, like this, are just in Australia. But even if you're overseas, I hope you've found this video useful as a way of using some of your own containers and lanterns to create a beautiful tabletop piece. Thanks so much for joining me. Have a great day. See you.